Hi, I'm Annalise Hagen, the author and creator of the Yoga Face, the world's first face yoga system. And today I wanted to talk to you about Botox and why it is not advisable to use it over the age of 50. Now, as most of you know who followed me, I am not a huge proponent of Botox. I don't really have an official position on it one way or the other. I can say that I can understand why people do use it, and I can also understand why people don't. A lot of you don't know this, but when I first started working with natural facial rejuvenation through yoga, I called the yoga face Yotox. It was a play on words meant to say that yoga and using it for the face could switch out the benefits of Botox. It was a cute little pun. It got me a little bit of traction in the press, but ultimately I was cease and desisted by the makers of Botox, who told me that I was trading on their name recognition. Now, I argued to them that it wasn't, because what I was doing was actually the opposite of what they were doing. I was using yoga, retaining movement in the face, using calming techniques to help soften the forehead, whereas they were using a medication that would paralyze the muscles. But they said, well, you're still using our name recognition. And I said, you're right. I am using it to get a little attention. So I stopped. I withdrew that name from the pool and I just started calling my work the Yoga Face instead. It was cool. It helped me get a book deal, I will say. I mean, it was still hard to get a book deal, but I did get a book deal in part because I got a lot of press based on that term. But fast forward now, it's 2025, and Botox has been around a really long time. We've seen the upside, we've seen the downside, right? And I'm going to tell you in full transparency that one time I actually did use it in this long arc since I've been studying and teaching facial rejuvenation through yoga. Around 9 years ago, I booked a commercial for a facial filler. And even though I am known as the facial rejuvenation pro through yoga, this was an offer that was just too good to resist. It was a really great package in terms of compensation. And I'll be honest, I was a little bit curious as to what would happen if I allowed myself to be injected. So I did this commercial and they injected me for the particular product, which was a vertical lip line filler. At the time, I didn't really have any vertical lip lines. I still really don't. I can see a little more now than I used to have. But in the fine print of the contract, it also stated that they had the prerogative to maybe work around the area with other fillers or facial injectables, and that's what they ended up doing. So it was kind of a strange position to be in, as somebody who had sort of gone on record as saying we can do this naturally, then to be in the position of actually having the experience of being injected, etc. Now, luckily for me, or unluckily, you could say, I have a lot of muscular composition in my body and in my face. Even my face muscles are very strong, probably because I've done so much face yoga, but also it's just my natural body type. So I'm the kind of person that will metabolize anything that you inject into me really, really, really fast and burn it off. So even if I wanted to electively use Botox, I probably wouldn't, because I'm going to metabolize it so fast. I'm really active. I'm a yoga teacher. I do a lot of cardio. I'm always cross training. So it would be a huge waste of money. But since this was on the commercial producers and the cosmetic company's dime, I let them do it. Now, at the time, the doctor that the maker of the product had hired to do the injecting told me that if I had paid for everything that they were doing, it would have cost around $10,000, which obviously I would never do. So that was kind of interesting. I will say, after the experience, I didn't really like the way my face looked. They did some filler here, they did some filler here. They even sort of augmented the jaw and, of course, kind of froze my forehead. So that was my foray into the world of injectables and neurotoxins. And I'm glad I did it, because I think it was important for me to see what it was like on the other side. Now, let's come back to the moment. In this day and age, with Botox becoming so widely used and recommended, I mean, when I came up with the face yoga system, the Yoga Face, back in the day around 2005, I saw the advent of Botox and I was like, this is going to be a big thing. But I had no idea, I had no way of knowing how very popular, how very pervasive the use of Botox and injectables would become. And we've seen a lot of ups and downs in the cycles. So there was a period where everybody was injecting filler, and now filler is not so popular. We found out that filler migrates, and that sometimes you can't even remove it. We still don't know the long-term health impact of some of these injectables. So taking the long game, taking the long view, and we are aging, probably if you're interested in natural rejuvenation, you're not going to want to do these things because fashions come and go. We've seen the upside, we've seen the downside. And for myself, I've concluded through my own experience and through watching other people that when we age, we do lose volume. That is true, but injecting something to fill the areas that have lost volume doesn't necessarily improve the face. It can make you look chunkier facially, but you lose the bone structure. But getting back to the Botox issue, as we age, and I learned some of this from watching Dr. Amir Karam, so shout out to him. I really enjoy his content. He's a plastic surgeon. Check him out. And he's really smart about how he approaches what he does. And he made a video where he talked about major issues that can happen after 50 if you use routes that a lot of people are using pre-50. So we start to get heavier in the lid and heavier in the brow as we age, and we get more skin on the upper eyelid. So if you inject Botox in your forehead, you have lost mobility. And instead of having the ability to raise the forehead muscle, now it's actually dropping heavier and it's going to pull more of a load of weight down on your face. Your eyebrows are going to get heavier. Your lids are going to get heavier. We need flexibility and muscularity in the movement of the forehead in order to stay lifted, right? One of the main exercises that I've taught over the years is an exercise called Surprise Me. I'm going to teach it now. So if you lift up your eyelids like you're really surprised, and you start to lift up your upper forehead at the same time, and I often compare it to like, it's like you're wearing a little like cap, and imagine lifting like a knit cap, like you're lifting that up, you're lifting up this cap with your muscles, and you're lifting up the top of the scalp, and you're lifting up your eyebrows, and you're lifting up your eyelids. Everything else is staying pretty neutral. If you want to emphasize and give it a little more resistance and strength, you can give yourself a little bit of fingertip pressure and lifting everything up, even the mouth corners, and holding it for about 10 seconds like this. Don't forget to breathe. Lift those eyelids, lift those eyebrows, lift the forehead, lift the mouth corners, and then let it go. And now what you're doing is you're toning the frontalis muscle. You're building more strength into it with the resistance of your fingertips. And rather than losing movement and it becoming heavier and pulling a downward gravitational pull and making your forehead, your eyebrows, and your lids look droopy, we are countering that naturally. Now, there are a couple other things you can do to smooth your forehead if you're interested in keeping the forehead and especially the glabellar lines smooth. One is acupressure. If you put a fingertip right here in between your eyebrows and you find this acupressure point, which is right between the eyebrows, it's a bit of an indentation, and you just spiral a fingertip. It can be any fingertip, but get that fingertip in there where the indentation is and spiral it about 30 times. This is a major acupressure point that will help smooth any number 11s. Another one is to try to knit the brow and then resist it. I know that's counterintuitive, but I'm going to show you. I'm trying to knit the brow. There's a mark there from the acupressure, but it'll go away. I'm trying to knit the brow, but then I'm also kind of resisting by placing fingertips to the outer edges. So it takes a little bit of relaxation, but you're trying to bring those inner eyebrow points towards one another as you pull away with the fingers gently. Whenever you're using any fingertip pressure, make it gentle. And then to correct heavy lids, do what I call V for victory. Inner edges, outer edges of the eye corner, and close the eyelids like you're pulling down curtains, but smoothly. And what I'm doing is I'm using these little tiny eyelid muscles to pull down the eyelid rather firmly, and then my fingertips on either side are creating resistance. But if you're doing this one correctly, you'll feel your fingers kind of being pulled toward the midline. Don't resist that. And make sure when you're doing this that the rest of your forehead and your face is smooth. You're not scowling and you're breathing. Let's try it again. I'm going to come in a little closer, close my eyes, and I'm going to look one lid at a time, making sure I'm not making any new wrinkles. And then I lift up the eyelids. So mentally, I am affirming to myself that I'm soft in the forehead. I am soft in the eyelids when I do that. For me, I'm a visual learner, and if I can visualize what's happening inside or around my face when I'm doing an exercise, like I know that I might scowl or wrinkle my lids in that exercise, so I'm just telling myself to breathe and calm down. Now, the other thing you can do to smooth this area is you can get surgical tape and kind of knit the brow and then put a piece of clear surgical tape in a strip like this before you go to sleep at night, or even through the course of the day. I have a video on that I will link. And also frownies. Frownies are like a craft paper with an adhesive that you get wet on the adhesive side. And similarly, you would like pull here and put that frowny on. I usually use the diamond point right there, and then I'll do a couple squares right here. Do it at night after you clean your face, put on whatever moisturizer you're wearing, and then let it set before you put on the frownies, otherwise they won't stick. I can do another video on that if you want. But I've been using frownies a lot lately, and I feel like my forehead is looking pretty smooth for a 57-year-old. So that is my talk today on how to smooth your forehead without using Botox and why you shouldn't use Botox, especially over 50. And thanks to Dr. Amir Karam for his information, which is really helpful. And I really do believe it's important to have conversations and exchange of information, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on when it comes to natural facial rejuvenation, or if you're into medical interventions, or you're curious about both. So I will keep posting, and I will see you on the next one. Namaste from the Yoga Face. Little Marilyn Monroe kisses to plump the lips, and namaste.